how can you weave some warmth right into the fibers of your music? That is what we're going to look at today in Dr. Doug's Daily Tips for how to write great LDS church music. We are looking at hymn 118, Ye Simple Souls Who Stray. Now, this is a hymn that almost never gets sung by a congregation, probably because of the register. It goes so high at the end, we hit a high F. Also, probably because of the four flats. But if you took it down any further, you'd have to go, like if you took it down to G major, you'd have to bring that note down to an A, which is too low. And if you took it any higher, you'd have to take this note up to F sharp, which is too high. So it's probably the best key, but four flats typically scares away most pianists, most organists. Generally speaking. Anyway, we don't sing it very much, but it's a beautiful hymn, and there are some really great lessons to learn from this. So we're going to isolate a few moments that really bring out the warmth. Okay, let me play a bit of this so you get a sense of the tune. Okay, it's a lovely, warm thing. Now here on the second line of our first example, there's what this composer does is uses a 6/4 chord in a passing motion several times, and it's quite nice. This is the very first one that we see on Lonely. You see, as the bass goes down, it passes through this one chord in first inversion. The one chord is A flat, C, E flat. So the measure starts with the one chord, and then it gets to this one chord in second inversion, but in passing motion going to the 4 chord. So a 1/6/4 chord like that is normally used at the end of a phrase right before the cadence. Usually we get 1/6/4, 5/7/1. But here, if you can see the bass, it's used in a passing bass motion. When it's used in that passing motion, it gives the warmth of the coming home feeling that a cadence creates, where the 1/6/4 is used, like I just mentioned. But in this case, it's used in passing, so we get the warmth, but we get it in sort of a quicker, on-the-go kind of way. It's just another way to use that 6/4 sound, that second inversion sound with the passing bass. It's a wonderful warmth kind of a sound. Now, we're going to see a couple more of those in a second, but before we get there, I have to isolate my favorite spot in this hymn, which is this section right here. That's a really fun progression. So we start on the one chord, and then we're passing the bass up again. Then we get it to another one chord in first inversion. Then the bass stays on C, and we get this C minor chord. And this C minor chord, this 3 chord, usually 3 chords go to the 6 chord, and you would get F minor after this. But instead, the bass steps up again to the D flat, which is the 4 chord. So instead of going to the 6, the 3 chord goes to the 4 chord, which is allowed on the general rules of harmonic progression. That can happen. The 3 sometimes skips over the 6 chord where it usually goes and goes to 4. And it works particularly well when your bass is moving in contrary motion to the upper voice. So listen to that one more time and just hear how nice the 3/7 is going to the 4 chord. And it's especially nice because that 3 chord has a 7th on it, which happens to be the melody note, the B flat. Here it goes one more time. It's just very warm. And the register helps with that too. It's a very kind of low register. See, even there we get this low A flat. It's just not a good melody note for congregations. So we don't sing it very often. All right, let's look at the next bit of warmth. Here we go. Now, up to this point, we've had 3-part harmony. Now we're dividing into 4-part harmony. And this chord on folly, why will ye folly love? I'm not even sure what that means, but it's a beautiful chord. So we're 5-chord, 1 chord in first inversion. So look at the bass again. Similar to what we saw before, but in the opposite direction. See, up here the bass was stepping up while the soprano stepped down, but now the bass is stepping down and the soprano is going up. And when we get to this chord, we get this beautiful warmth. And it's another 6/4 chord, second inversion chord. Here's what it sounds like. 5/1. Oh, I just love that spot. Okay, so we get a 5 chord, which in this key is E flat, G, B flat, and a 7th on it, D flat. But we get it in second inversion with the B flat bass. But before the chord is fully resolved, we get this note in the tenor that doesn't fit the chord. It's this note from the previous chord that carries over. It's almost like the tenors forgot to count. And they suspend it over, so this is what we call a suspension. That's why I've written sus. And it's a 7th above the bass, resolving to a 6th above the bass. And that gives this warm chord even more warmth. Ooh, yeah, so nice. And then it goes to another warm chord, a very spacious 5/6. Spacious because the upper voices have this big octave, and the lower voices have a big 10th. And it's continuing the contrary motion. The soprano continues to go up as the bass continues to go down. Before the resolution to the 1 chord. Very warm passage. So again, the contrary motion from the bass and the soprano hitting the 5/6/4 chord with a suspension on it in the tenor, and then that open 5/6 chord. Oh, it's very, very warm and juicy. Okay, I think I have 2 more spots to show you. Yeah, so let's look at this next bit. Again, we get another 6/4 chord that's quite warm. This time it's used as an arpeggiated 6/4, meaning you take the chord that you're playing and you play the chord several times in a row, but you change the bass note. You arpeggiate the chord with the bass. It's that same warm chord we played a moment ago, but now we get... So just another use of that exact same chord, the 5/6/4, but now starting a phrase. Beautiful warm chord. And lastly, we get that same chord again, the 5/6/4 chord, but this time it happens in passing, kind of like before. So starting at that beginning line, the 4 chord. There it is again. And then the super high F. And then we get one more use of the same 5/6/4 chord. And look, it's in passing bass again, but the difference is rhythmic. This time we have a long held left hand with a melisma in the right hand, or the upper voices, meaning that they're singing one syllable with several notes. And then the 6/4 chord occurs. So he redresses these 5/6/4 chord, the 5 chord in second inversion, multiple ways. We have it in passing several times, and one time in passing, we get it rhythmically different than before. We found it in an arpeggiated way here, just in several uses of that. It's really quite nice. And then there was that fun little progression in the middle that I drew your attention to. So these are some excellent ways to add warmth to your music, using 6/4 chords in passing motion and using the 3 chord with a 7th on it that doesn't resolve the way you think, which normally resolves to 6, instead skips over the 6 and pauses on the 4. Ooh, 2 very, very warm techniques I highly recommend you use. All right, that is your daily tip for today. If you'd like more free tips like this, head over to latterdaymusiversity.com where you can get my free 24-page report, The 10 Commandments of How to Write Warm, Fuzzy LDS Church Music. Hope you enjoyed it. Hit subscribe, ring the bell so you get all these notifications, and come back again for our next daily tip with Dr. Doug. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.